Welcome, affiliated listeners, to another episode of the Affiliated Podcast, and we have a very exciting conversation for anyone that might be interested in making a lot of money on Facebook, which I think I've heard some of those people before. But we're going to be talking with one of our diamond affiliates in the Facebook space, Thomas Owens, Giddings, one of the two. Doesn't matter, Thomas is his first name. But before we go into introduce you guys to Thomas, a delightful client of ours and great person, I'm going to bring in another Thomas, my co-host. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I only have one last name. So
I realize this might get confusing at times. So I'm going to call one of
Thomas?
you. Yeah. We're going to call, what should we do? We'll do McChoppo for this interview for Thomas. So you're McChoppo for today.
Well, I got like this. The Four Rooms thing this last weekend. I got Kirkland Seth Rogen, which I like.
Kirkland Seth Rogen. Yeah. Nice. That is good. That is really good. The Kirkland brand Seth Rogen. Sorry. I don't know why the burn on that was slow for me, but I really pieced together and enjoying it far too much. So, Thomas isn't laughing as much. At McChoppo. But really happy to have you here today. So, and obviously quite a long flight. It was 20 hours?
Well, yeah, all in all, yeah. It was a long day of travel. Yeah. 10-hour flight from London to Seattle, but all in between.
And when he landed here, his first impression of Boise was me. So obviously, sorry.
And a dry air.
Yeah, the dry air. Yes. So we're really excited to have you here today. So before we kind of jump in and specifically talking about some of the things that you've seen change in Facebook and what you're doing today and sharing people some really great things they could learn to improve their business, I think you kind of have an interesting story. And it's not like you've been an affiliate marketer, at least in the direct response space, for decades or anything like that. But you do obviously have some experience in media buying. So why don't you walk us through kind of how you found yourself in this ClickBank direct response world?
Absolutely, yeah. So it all started, I want to say, 2010, 2011, when I was working a job, and it was a bit of a stressful job. It was working with young people with behavioural difficulties. So it was sort of like the last step before juvenile centres, right? Detention centres.
Sounds like a tough job, man.
Sounds pretty stressful.
It was pretty stressful, to say the least. And then on the side, a few years into it, I didn't hate it at the time. It was all right. It was, I was a young lad myself and full of testosterone, and these young lads were wanting to
spit and fire.
You're ready to go. You're like, I may not be an MMA fighter, but this is close.
Yeah, that's it. It wasn't like I was hating it at the point, but then I had an injury. I suffered a collapsed lung, and it was
how?
So I'd played rugby, and obviously, there's quite big hits. It didn't happen at the time, but it sort of set up my rib to, So anyway, shortly after playing a game of rugby, I had a collapsed lung. It sort of felt like Mike Tyson had just blasted me in the rib cage, and just no breath. I didn't know what it was, and I was at work as well. And because I was, a typical lad, I was like, "I'm all right. It'll wear off, and it'll."
So this happened, and you're just going on about your day like something wrong.
I was like, the only comfortable position was if I was like this. So literally, I was spending the whole day like that, and I was like, "Look, there's something wrong." And my boss was like, "Oh, it's just indigestion. You've ate your bacon butty too fast."
Too fast.
Too fast. Yeah.
So it's so funny because I literally was thinking,
air capacity.
If I was in that position, I'm like, that's just some indigestion.
Yeah.
So it's some weird food.
So I was down the shop getting Rennies or Gaviscon or whatever. I don't know what the equivalent here is, but it didn't subside anyway. So I went home, and my missus was like, it's just trap wind. You're all right, put your feet up. I was like, no one believes me.
You need more healthcare
You need new people in your life, Thomas.
But I obviously cry wolf too much. But anyway, so the next, I'd gone through the night, barely slept, and the next day, I was like, my missus' mum is a nurse, and she was like, "Look, you probably need to go to the doctors." So I went to the doctors, and he was like, "You need to go to hospital now." He'd listen to my breathing. He's like, "I can't hear you. Your lungs aren't working. I can't hear your lungs. You're not taking any breath in." So went to the hospital straight away and went in, and they did X-rays and stuff, and I had my right side lung was like a little tiny ball in my chest cavity.
You literally just popped it, and
it was just a balloon, like a deflated balloon.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Holy cow!
So he's like,
you ate that bacon and butter
such
way
a
too
wuss,
fast.
man.
I need to slow down with my eating.
I thought Pepto-Bismol inflated lungs.
Yeah, so anyway, I did this surgery, and I had this, can't remember what it's like, a handbag or something they call it. It's basically they shove these tubes through your rib cage, like a vacuum to suck the air to then, promote the lung re-inflating. So I had that, and I had to stay in hospital for 10 days. And whilst in there, I was on this respiratory ward with other people that had suffered from various things, people who were at the end of the line, you know, other people who'd been involved in car accidents and, you know, affected the lungs. And there was a couple of people that had died in there. You know, they were older, and at the end of the line, but like surrounded by the family, the kids, the grandkids. And I was like, man, I don't want to end up like most people. Like, I'm assuming that, you know, probably they had a job, they'd worked most of their life, they got to their, you know, retirement age, which keeps on getting further and further. So yeah, I was like, I sort of like that. That was the reality check. I didn't have kids at the time, but it was like the reality check that I don't want a job until I'm 65, 70 and then enjoy my life for 5-10 years before I go. So yeah, I took to Google and tapped in the magic words, make money, or along those lines. And yeah, it just led me down so many rabbit holes. I think I started with Empower Network. That was the first thing. And then there was something else after that. And then something that's like shiny objects left, right, and center. I was waxing my my wage on just all these different things, hoping that one of them was going to help me get out of the hole. And so then going back to the job, I'd suffered this and I'd obviously recovered. But there was just something missing in my head then. I was like very, very easily stressed, very easy to, reactive, and, started to get depressed, and like to the point when I was traveling into work and I was just thinking like just taking the road off the car off the road, so that was the excuse. I don't have to go to work. So I wrapped the car instead. Yeah. So, that was to the point where I needed to get out, and I started running Facebook ads. So after trying a ton of different shiny objects, Facebook ads on a local lead gen level, and then started realizing that I actually quite like it. I like reading the data, I like optimizing the campaigns, and started my own agency. And it just went from there. I started working with specializing in home services, so roofers, windows, solar.
You're selling leads to different...
So selling leads, So all in the US, none in the UK, because UK is always a little bit further behind. They're still a bit, I don't want to buy leads, you know what I mean? Okay. It's all word of mouth. They're still a little bit old school. So then, I just was doing that, and it just progressed. And then I'd realized I quit my job, which was my first, major goal that I wanted to quit my job. So I quit my job, but then I quickly realized that I'd quit my job for another job where I had 30 employees. I had 30 employers. I had 30 clients.
You went agency route, right?
Yeah.
Rookie mistake,
God,
Thomas. Rookie mistake.
Take me back to the kids' home. I was quickly, and then I was like, man, I can't do this either. And then I was like, so I'm running these offers, and it's like a roofing lead gen offer, and I have to do it in like a 30-mile radius of where this guy's situated, this company's situated. And then this random affiliate manager from ClickDealer just reached out to one of the Facebook pages we were running ads from. And was like, look, I can beat your payout. And I was like, what are you on about? You can beat the payout. And he's like, I can pay you more than what you're getting paid. I was like, okay. Anyway, we started talking and signed up, and then started running ads through ClickDealer. Basically the same ads that we were running for the agency.
Same lead gen stuff, yeah.
Exactly the same, but on a national scale.
Yeah.
So then it's like, oh shit. So now we've gone from spending $50 to $100 per client to spending, as much as we can. We had quite a big cap. But then the quality issues came into check because it was lead gen, and then, cap did come into there's another 10 affiliates running this, and they're only buying 1,000 leads per day. So I was like, oh man, we'd hit a ceiling. I think we were doing 20, 30K a day, and we'd hit a ceiling. And I was like, there's got to be easier ways to scale. And I knew about ClickBank before. I'd never really delved into it. And then literally probably a week or 2 weeks before the international lockdown for COVID in March 2020, I was like, I'm going to go to ClickBank. And I started testing a couple of offers. I think I was in the baby, I started with that baby sleep or something that. I can't remember what it is.
Sleep for baby, right?
Yeah,
I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something along those lines, and making sales, but not profitable. And then I was like, because I didn't want to go into the Nutra space or the weight loss, because I'm going to lose all my ad accounts. And then I was like, nah, the lockdowns came around. I was like, I'm going to launch Research. It was just as Research, maybe Research was a few weeks old. And it just took off. Everyone was at home on the phones, no gyms open. And it just went crazy. And obviously I was at low scale there. I was fresh to it. I think I started with $5,000 as a float. And that tied me over. And then I was just reinvesting everything I made. I was just reinvesting back into the campaign. And it did really well, and it ran for a couple of months. And then, it started to fatigue a little bit, and then we jumped onto another offer, and so forth, and then we end up where we are today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think one of the things I love about the journey is when I can't tell, and there's lots of listeners here that think that it's one thing, and sometimes we get people that get the journey you're talking about gets compressed for them. Like their first attempt was the one that made them all the money, right? They go like, oh, I did that right away. But more often than not, and I think the people that sustain over a long period of time are exactly what you did. It's a grind, man. You have to grind.
You've got that grit,
find different ways. And
it.
keep working, because for you, the motivation was kind of life or death, right?
Yeah.
You were faced with something. You're like, this cannot be my life. And so I have to be able to change it. And so that's what you went off and did.
Yeah. And it's it's been the best thing that I've done by far. And there's been a lot of things that a lot of failures along the road. It's not been, like you say, just a one-hit wonder or like straight off the bat pure fluke. There's been a lot of grinding, a lot of offers that just did terrible, and to the point where, and to be fair, there's a lot of offers that started off terrible, but like with a little bit more, understanding the offer to make it work. Yeah.
So because right now you're a Diamond affiliate, right? You're out here for Diamond Summit. Like, are you a blend of different niches? Are you mostly in one niche or the other? Like, what's kind of like your scope now when you look at what you're running?
So like vertical wise, pretty much all in on health. We've got a few other campaigns, lead gen stuff and other things outside of the health vertical, but yeah, mainly health. And then, down to sub niche. Men's health has been massive for us the last 6 months. We've ran, probably so it's been 3 years of doing this now. So March 2020 through to now.
And I was curious, like, have you had an issue with the Facebook accounts going down or staying up, or like?
Yeah, I think it's, again, part and parcel of it. I think as a Facebook ad buyer, it doesn't matter even, it doesn't matter what you're running. I mean, obviously it's a little bit more risky running health stuff, but I've had ad accounts go down for running a white hat roofing lead gen offer, and so I mean, there's ways to sort of minimize the risk that we use. So using quizzes, but on a multi-page setup instead of a one page.
So you've got the bridge page that instead of just doing
so like we could have a normal like some people running like through ClickFunnels, they'll have like a 4-question quiz, but it's still on the same URL, right? All the questions are on the same URL. It's the quiz is embedded into the page, and then it goes to the offer after that. But we'll run it to question 1's on page 1, question 2 on page 2.
Yeah.
So then there's
you
like
create that barrier between you and your pre-sale.
So then it's like 5 pages deep into the funnel before they even see the offer.
Yeah.
And so then any like review bots, spy tools, etc., anything that's like scraping redirects on the landing page, it's just going to see the second landing page. You know what I mean? It's just going to see question 2. So, yeah.
That's smart. That's really interesting. So, well, that transitions perfectly into talking about things that you're kind of seeing working in the health space for you now. What are some of the tactics, especially considering a lot of people really struggled with Facebook and even left Facebook after the iOS Armageddon. But before we were talking, you're saying it actually is that was bad for a little bit, but things have really recovered for you nicely.
Yeah. So the iOS obviously it affects your data inside Facebook for sure, and obviously there's cons to that in the fact that we do a lot of manual bidding. So for us to make manual bidding effective within the ads dashboard, we need to have Facebook seeing the data, because if they're missing like 50% of the data, then they think our CPA is twice as much as what it actually is, right? Because half of the data is missing. So then our manual bid, if we're bidding on, what we're actually getting sales for, $50 or whatever, Facebook's seeing it as $100, so it throttles our traffic because we're not bidding high enough, right? So that's probably the biggest aspect of it, but obviously there's ways to get around that to help with manual bidding, and whether it be bid cap or cost cap, you can sort of throttle your bid but increase your budget, which obviously Facebook's going to try and spend as much as they can if you've got a bigger budget, but you've got a lower bid cap, say, so you're sort of throttling it. You can make use of accelerated delivery, which is a little tick box that you tick at the bottom to really try and help.
Yeah, that's a newer thing, right?
Last year or so, yeah.
I think it's only there for physical products, right?
So we use it for our Nutra stuff. So the accelerated delivery has probably been the best campaign. It hasn't been one that we've been running recently as much, but like all of last year, we really scaled hard by using a method called sneak attack, which it's from Yeah, it's just one of the.
I'm intrigued.
The weird,
It really snuck up on me when you said this, which makes me think it's an effective strategy.
And it's not my strategy, by the way. It's from Tim Bird. And again, strategy, and there's a little bit of it's a bit cliche, shall we say. It's just basically a way of setting up your ads. It's not really a strategy. But basically what it is, once you've got some data in your ad account, you can start manual bidding to really try and help scale, right? To get as many sales as you can for as low a CPA as you can. And a way of doing that with this method is to have a big budget. So let's say if you want to spend $1,000 a day, you'd increase your budget to $10,000 a day, have a manual bid of a bid cap of, a really low bid cap, nowhere near what you actually get in your CPA is. If your CPA is $100, like you'd set your bid cap to $50, but tick accelerated delivery, meaning telling Facebook to spend your budget as soon as you can. But because you're using bid cap, which is saying I don't want to pay any more than this amount for my CPA, and you've got a big budget, Facebook usually spends like 10-20% of what your budget is with that really low bid cap, because that's throttling it, right? Mm-hmm. And like we scaled Exipure to 100K a day with that. We scaled with that one strategy, just one massive campaign, lifetime budget, day parting, with this sneak attack, with this accelerated delivery, and killed it.
Because it's taking the accelerated benefits and then allowing yourself, like you said, a throttle in it, so it doesn't get out of control if it goes bad. But then you could open it up when things are good.
Yeah. Right? So like in the good, when it's working, like if it's like one day it's just absolutely slaying it, and it's within this like 3-hour window, you notice there's a 3-hour window where it kills it, then you'd increase your bid, because you can allow it to, because you've got the data to tell you, well, it's going to work.
Yeah.
And then obviously if it goes, pear-shaped, you could throttle it back or whatever, right? But yeah, I think it's one of my, again, I haven't used it as much recently just because we're getting so much success out of just lowest cost at the moment. Mm-hmm. But like when we really want to scale aggressively, when we found an offer that's looking like it's, can take the scale, that's one of my go-tos for sure. But again, it's probably one that you'd need to really be, if you got setting a 10K a day budget or 100K a day budget or whatever it is, you definitely need to make sure you're keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, that's not the crock pot strategy. Set it, forget it. I'm gonna go to bed now. Let's see what happens.
Just provide some context. We saw a media buyer scale really big. We're like, whoa, look at this supposed to be going. And I think they must have done that wrong. In retrospect, I think that must have.
One day of like, wow, 6-figure revenue, and then you're like, they haven't spent anything for a month. Thomas just spit water everywhere. That's how good that was. We've seen that more than often. So, but still, at the same time, like that's really interesting. I always like strategies where it's almost like you're using Facebook's tools in ways that they might not have realized that could be done. Is always tends to be really effective. You just got to be careful. So
and to add on to that, because obviously that's just just putting it out there. There's other parts to it, but like anyone who's running any type of ad to like an offer, they need to see the data, right? And you can't rely on Facebook anymore. So like a click tracker is like beyond essential. Mm-hmm. Like if you're planning on running any type of traffic, then like you wouldn't be able to run that type of setup just using Facebook data, because you don't know which ads are sending. Like Facebook can tell you one ad's getting the sales when it's another ad, right? And so a click tracker of some sort.
You mean like a volume or a red track?
Volume, like red track, Binum. Yeah, there's a good few out there, and I think there's another one out there every week now, a new one. So
with the Facebook data, like. Just for people who might not know, when you look at because pre-iOS it was a little bit easier to trust, but definitely post, not at all. Like what changed or why is that where it's so unreliable?
The iOS obviously with the the update not allowing or like giving them the option to opt out of having the data tracked with the cookie tracking, right?
Yep.
So like there's obviously the CAPI or whatever it is, CAPI or whatever you want to call it. And to be fair, the ClickBank tracking, the integrated ClickBank tracking is probably the best post-iOS tracking that I think it is. Yeah, like I use...
Grab that, Mark. Grab it real fast. Can you say that one more time? But look right there.
But it is, because like I still like it is... Obviously, it's not 100% accurate, but it's probably only slightly less accurate than what it was pre-iOS, right? Now, obviously, if you were to run just iOS only, then that might be different. But we don't usually. We usually run to automatic placement. So
that's why I keep an Android, so I can just make sure that everyone's getting the most data from me they can.
I'm shaking my head like I wasn't an
I know,
Android user just like 5 minutes ago.
I was like,
Android. No, that's super. That's great tactic. That's really, I like that. I don't even know where to go with it now. I'm just so excited. And you did that with it. So no, so that's really amazing. You have a question?
I did have a question. Like for someone, let's say like a beginner to intermediate media buyer, what's your approach to increasing ad spend?
I think like you can't go wrong. Like obviously, I mean, there's a whole process to it. From obviously the testing phase, needs to be tight. I think so. Like for example, what we're doing again, nothing new and nothing like that's been created. We obviously add our own flavor to things, but it's always taken from someone else or what someone else is doing, and we model that and we take what we think could work in our stuff and add stuff to it. But like our testing process at the moment. Usually evolves around a new offer coming out. We'll get like either Evelina or someone will reach out. One of the vendors will reach out and say, look, there's a new offer coming out. So we'll then ask for the script. So I'll just give you it from A to Z because it's easier than just going landing in the middle. But they get the script and ask for the big idea, and then we can craft our angles and hooks for the ads. And we'll usually create like 3 hooks or 3 angles, if you will, 3 different ad styles. And we'll have creative made for them, usually video ads, like a script written, like our own script, maybe between 30 to 60-second script. Okay. And then we'll either use UGC actors or have like royalty-free footage.
Yeah, are you using like Backstage or something for the UGC stuff?
Backstage for the UGC stuff, yeah. And then obviously we'll have our stuff and then we're ready to go. So, and an offer we can usually tell within the first day whether it's going to look good, but we'll usually give it $1,000 to $2,000 of testing budget, and we'll do this 3 to 5 offers a week if we can. And so we've got we know where we are, and usually we see 25% of them go to the next stage.
Is that $1,000 a day you're testing? Or
no,
is that
so that could be. Yeah. I mean, it depends how fast you want the data. If it's aggressive and like we're wanting to test, and there's other offers coming out and we're queuing up, then we might test it a little bit faster. But usually we're looking for like 7 days because we want to try and get the weekend. Like an offer that you test on Tuesday might be totally different on Saturday.
Yeah.
So
of breadth.
Yeah, we want to try and spread it. So like $1,000 to $2,000 will be like a couple $100 a day. Over and again, like it doesn't have to be that. You could start testing with like $25 a day, right? It doesn't like it's just
you're looking for key numbers that tell you, indicators that say this has life.
And
right?
I'm just curious for you. Do you need like 100% ROI on that, or do you need like just a sign of life? Like it's like okay,
like in the testing phase, like we could be slightly negative. Like if there's sales there. That like we might have got usually when we drill down into the data, we'll find pockets of profit. So like it could be that ad with that headline with this lander. Do you know what I mean? Like if you wanted to go that deep, so there's a pocket of profit there, which we might then sort of like try and intensify and try and push more traffic to that path. But yeah,
by the way, that's a tagline you should definitely take: a pocket of profit.
That's good. The path to a pocket of profit.
Yeah. There you go.
Let's keep saying that real fast.
There's usually something along those lines, right? And then we'll be able to see the conversion rate of the offer, what the EPCs look like, and that'll give us an indicator as to whether we think we can, maybe we've got the messaging of the ad a little bit wrong. So like if it's break even, slightly negative, it might need a little bit more money spent on it for us to get an idea, or we might need to redo some of the ads. If it's, completely negative, no sales or terrible conversion rate, then it might just get dropped and we move on to the next offer, yeah.
Which is why you're doing kind of that 4 to 5
Yeah, because we know not every offer's got, and a lot of these offers are brand new, right? Yeah. So like, and some are tested internally through lists and, so.
For those others are not.
Yeah, for those new offers you're testing, is there like a gut check that they have to pass before you test? Like what are you looking for with a new offer that doesn't have a ton of data on it?
Yeah, I mean, usually it's from someone that we've already got a relationship with. Yeah. So that's usually what it is. So someone that we know they put out good offers, that, it's converted for us in the past, their previous offers. I mean, that's usually what we do. To take an offer that we have no data on the person, the vendor, we'd probably want to see a little bit more statistical data before we start pushing it. Yeah.
Yep. It's not what you know, it's who you know, right?
Well, especially when you're going to be committing $1,000 to $2,000 on that.
Yeah, and the time because it's like a 3 to 5 day turnaround to get copy, to get UGC, to get all the assets that go with pushing the ad.
What What's your team like now? I mean, this doesn't sound like a you operation, right? Yeah.
No, so, but it's still, relatively small. So there's, a couple of VAs that take care of, landers, and there's a copywriter who spits out copy all day and, multiple offers a week. And then video guys and a media buyer, and then me running media. So 2 media buyers. So we're pretty light, but that's what I like to do. I like to run the campaign. So I do need to take myself out of it more and start growing the business rather than looking at data. But yeah, I do like it.
I mean, do what you love, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Well, here's what would you be replacing where you would grow the business more?
I think more this type of stuff, getting out and relationship building, because again, like one thing that we want to really push into is exclusive offers, and that's not going to come by just sitting around waiting for it. You're going to have to build a relationship first to
where you've got all the traffic for Facebook or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We get exclusive. I mean, not exclusive rights, but like because what's happening at the minute is there's a lot of copying, and as we know, and part and parcel of the industry, but. It can really wreck a campaign.
That's a frustrating part of the industry, right?
Massively. Yeah. We had a big campaign in February that was doing decent numbers, and there was several other affiliates that ripped us, verbatim, and then within days, that campaign is no longer, right? It's just crashed to the floor, so, yeah.
Especially if they're not holding the same standards, they could end up, getting Facebook's attention. The algorithm's like, no, this sucks. I don't want it. And so they're just wrecking your hard work. So that's always got to be real frustrating. So with exclusives, like, what does that look like for you when you do an exclusive offer with somebody?
So usually what we'll do is do like sort of like a mini test, commit to X amount of budget over a certain time period. And again, that's more for us to test the offer and see if this is going to work, and something that we can, take forward. So it might be a couple of weeks, it might be a month for us to really give it a good go. Again, it would go through the initial testing phase first, so that we run offers through. And then ideally we want to, because we're also aware that a vendor is going to want as many sales as they can to that offer.
Right, because their hesitation, I imagine, will be like, well, if I give you exclusive and you don't scale.
There's no one else. Yeah, exactly. Or you get distracted and jump off, which always happens. But yeah, so there's got to be like trust from both sides. There's got to be a commitment and an agreement, obviously. So usually it'd be more like a time agreement. We'll run this for 3 months and see how we go. And then, if there's good scale being met, and because it's easier for the vendor as well if they're only working with one affiliate.
100%.
Although there might be less sales, but they also don't have 10 other affiliates.
It's almost like a for-profit agency, right?
It's exactly.
And you think like you could customize things, that you could get more optimization, you could get testing. It's really exclusive when the partnership's right, could work out better for both sides.
Yeah, it's there's a lot more input from us to them and vice versa, right? For us to be, would we be able to split test this headline on the VSL or whatever?
Yeah, no, that's really.
Are you held to like we're going to hit X many sales to keep that exclusive, or like is there?
I mean, some have like to meet revenue goals, so it might be like we need like 200K a week, or do you know what I mean, for it to make sense. Some are quite happy because, again, it might be a new offer for them, and it's good testing for them to optimize and all that good stuff as well.
That makes sense.
Okay. So, real fast, you mentioned that you have some media buyers on the team. We actually talked about this before, that you've, with a lot of what you've done and what you've learned, it seems like you've kind of grown an affinity for teaching others. So, like, have you done a lot of that, like outside of just your internal team media buying, is maybe helping other media buyers or growing and teaching some of the things that you know?
Yeah, I've launched an info product before, which it's not really being managed at the moment. But yeah, I mean, there is definitely something in me that I do want to teach. And whether that's through a product or not, I don't know. But yeah, definitely, I take enjoyment out of helping other people for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, what kind of people do you like to help? What's the target group of individuals you like to talk to when you talk about media buying and helping them out?
I mean, as a basis, I guess anyone that's willing to learn. Do you know what I mean? Willing to learn, who's got the fire, not like just wanting to dip the toe in, but wanting to like jump in head first type of thing. And always for me, someone, I guess similar sort of background, just been, irritated with a job or whatever, looking for ways of making money, etc., you know, and wanting to really get involved in this for sure.
So no ClickBank employees, Thomas, because no one would ever be irritated at their job here. Let's put that in. No, that's really interesting. And well, I know, and I'll even tell you this. You mentioned before that you're actually looking to maybe even connect with some people that might want to talk to you,
absolutely. Right? Yeah. So like, obviously, you know, always looking to scale, always looking to run more offers, etc., etc. So we're always looking for media buyers, always looking.
Yeah. So I mean, just kind of curious. So if I'm an aspiring media buyer, or it's just something I want to jump into, you mentioned I hate my job and I'd like to not work it anymore. How would how would you want somebody to reach out to you, and what would be kind of the profile that say that, hey, maybe we should talk more if you could help somebody out like that?
That's a good question. Facebook probably. It's probably where I'm most active. It'd be Thomas G. Owen on Facebook.
The G.
Yeah. So my actual name, Owen is my middle name, but again, it's a long story, but there was past employers that didn't like people looking for other ways of making money. So yeah, it was covert.
That's good to know. It's good to know about your crimes of the past. This is important. So, well, hey, I know we're actually we're getting short on our time, but it was an amazing conversation. I feel like we could continue for much longer. But I think one of the things you said that's really, really powerful is the fact that you're open to talking with people. Because there's a lot of media buyers that have a lot of success, but it's a bit of a closed curtain. They don't want to engage. They want to create their own competition. But knowing that you have that and you want to share the journey that you went through and the transformation, similar when you were helping out the disadvantaged youth, you maybe could do it with a different group of people, but still change and make impacts to lives. So I'd encourage anyone listening to, I think you shared some great nuggets today, but if you were thinking, I want to have more success, or this is something that I want, definitely encourage you to find Thomas on Facebook and reach out to him, and make sure that's, Thomas G. Owens and not Thomas, whatever your middle initial McMahon is. No one wants to follow him on Facebook.
Find me at Happy Scaling.
Before I let you go, I want to say, is there anything else you want to say to the cameras, to the audience, just about anything?
I will say this, because obviously, 3 years ago, which isn't really that long a time frame, to be fair, I was making money through the ad agency, but like I said, it was a lot of stress, a lot of work. And then coming into the affiliate side, like I said before, and we all said, it was the grind. You got to get through the grit, etc. It's not always, sunshine and roses or whatever the saying is. It was there's peaks and troughs to it, but like the upside is just incredible, because to go from look back 3 years to where I was, and even fast forward 12 months, like the type of money that we were making in the first year was insane. Do you know what I mean? And now the type of money that we're making is even more insane. So yeah, I think anyone that's like, and ahhing, it's definitely worth tasting this for sure. 100%.
Yeah, because that grind comes with a very sweet treat at the end, which is
it's
large profits and almost unlimited potential.
Pockets of profit.
Pockets of profit. That's the name of this episode is going to be Pockets
Let's just put up a new podcast. We're going to claim it right now.
Pockets of Profit. Sounds great. We talk about Hot Pockets.
For the pockets of profits. Yeah.
Awesome, Thomas. This is great. Really appreciate you coming, flying all the way over here, not just for this, but glad you took some time out of your day to do it, and hope you enjoy Boise and Sun Valley. And we'll try not to get into too much trouble this week.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you having me.
Well, until then, guys, please remember to comment, rate, review, subscribe, all the things you hear you're supposed to do on podcast and YouTube channels. Also, we like to hear your comments, too. Please mention the other things you'd like us to discuss, other people you'd like us to interview, other nicknames for Thomas McMahon as well. We'd really like some new ones. He's got plenty, but a little bit more wouldn't hurt.
I got Handsome Screech as well.
Handsome Screech. That's a complicated one, because I don't know how to feel about it.
I didn't. I'm still turning it over.
That's interesting, because lots to unpack there. But we'll take Handsome Screech. Well, so for all these other, be safe, and Handsome Screech. What do we tell the people?
Happy scaling.
Happy scaling. Until next time. Thanks, guys.